And does it look like Israel will heed international criticisms and call off its offensive on Rafah?
It's really difficult to say. The IDF do not
Pause it
give
there
us
for a
advance
second.
warning of their plan.
I actually, I can answer that question. I have a direct communique here from the Prime Minister of Israel. And Bibi is going to answer. I know he doesn't, I know you don't know that Bibi's listening to that clip we were just playing, but he just gave us an answer to it. And I think juxtaposed to the question that was just laid down, we could just hear it from the source himself rather than the correspondent type person, right? So let's go ahead. LD, go ahead. It's queued up. And this is the same clip we were listening to before, but he does address the answer to this question.
Killed in that battle. The Israeli army is going to lengths that no other army has done to prevent civilian casualties. No other army. Of course, this doesn't prevent the vilification of Israel. This doesn't prevent the horrible slurs and slanders and lies that are hurled against the Jewish state and the Jewish army. I mean, this is incredible. They took us to this farce in The Hague. South Africa accuses us of genocide. Can you imagine? South Africa accuses us of genocide when we're doing everything but genocide against a genocidal foe. And this is repeated, sometimes by world leaders. Today, the president of Brazil, by comparing Israel's war in Gaza against Hamas, a genocidal terrorist organization, to the Holocaust, President Silva has disgraced the memory of 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazis, and he's demonized the Jewish state like the most virulent anti-Semite. He should be ashamed of himself. You know, we often speak about the history of anti-Semitism, and we say, how could those lies that were leveled against the Jewish people, these extraordinary falsifications, these unbelievable diatribes that had no basis in fact, how could they have been believed by so many? But
how could they have been
exactly
said in the first place?
today.
Go ahead and pause it. You just heard there, he doesn't have any respect for the ICJ, so they're not going to abide by the dude's rules, apparently, because that's what he just said.
And he doesn't try to argue against any of the major claims made by the ICJ. He just he essentially does the projection, sort of gaslighting. They're trying to accuse us of genocide. It's what our enemy is doing. It's like, okay, I get it. They're really going to hunker down to this. We're just going to go with the lie.
Yeah, I think he was in that 1997 movie with Favreau, Swingers, because he's doubled down.
John Favreau.
Yeah, he's doubled down. He's Mikey.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
that's
what he just said was
down,
the rise of anti-Semitism and all these untrue tropes, but he doesn't realize that it's like his team that are the originators of the tropes that are being circulated around. They said those things, and he's talking to an insulated room of believers, and he's like, "Can you believe that people are accusing us of genocide?"
Right.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic, and he's doing so by appealing to ad hominem, right? He's just attacking these people, but he's attacking South Africa. He's attacking Brazil's president, which is, that's a whole separate thing. But just
Lula said it. I didn't say that.
Yeah, what Lula said as in that isolated instance is interesting in that regard. But the fact that he instantly accused them of being anti-Semitic, and not just being critics of the Zionist state. It's just the same bromides, the same tropes, the same cliches that are.
Well, why would you have to check out anyone's claim when you can just claim anti-Semitism? You don't have to see
and then invoke the Holocaust, which he also did when he did that. He invoked the Holocaust again.
But we just heard the Holocaust survivors say that he can't do that.
Yeah, and
that's the beauty of this show, because now you get to know. All right, let's go a couple more minutes on this, because I think this is actually meritorious, substantial.
In the case of Israel, the vilifications, diatribes, and lies leveled against Israel are believed by many, but I have to say also there are many who don't believe them and stand by us, beginning with the United States of America and the broad segments of the American public. Yes, there are some who joined the demonstrations. Among them, the most absurd thing is gays for Gaza. Have you seen this? I mean, you don't want to be gay in Gaza. You don't want to, you can't talk about human rights and talk about the Hamas regime, these monstrous,
pause it.
this monstrous.
It is, I would agree. It's very hard to be gay in Gaza right now, especially with all the bombing.
It's hard
And-
to just be,
Yeah.
to exist in
Be
Gaza.
just be human in Gaza
Yeah,
right now is
just
pretty
being in Gaza, existing, it would be very difficult for anyone.
tough. But he, with his savvy, he used it like a stand-up comedy moment. LD, rewind it. Watch how he
attempted to.
frames this.
He's about as much
Hey, if,
comedy as
you
we
know,
do on
hey,
this show.
you know, like he's
When
doing a
it's
Tonight
discussed.
Show like monologue. Have you heard about this? Right? Go ahead. Let's play it again.
Yes, there are some who joined the demonstrations. Among them, the most absurd thing is gays for Gaza. Have you seen this? I mean, you don't want to be gay in Gaza. You don't want to, you can't talk about human rights and talk about the Hamas regime, these monstrous, this monstrous entity
That seemed the same regime you supported.
executes anybody who disagrees with them. They're now, as we
I'm
are making
confused.
every effort to get civilians out of harm's way, Hamas is doing every effort to keep them in harm's way. And when we provide safe corridors and the Gazans begin to
Pause.
move there,
Pause. Didn't they start bombing Rafah
Dude,
recently?
you're going to
in
see
southern
IDF
Gaza?
guys shooting
I
people
mean-
going in and out of the hospital. You're
I
about to see
mean-
IDF blowing up ambulances in the Hind story later, right? What he's
This
saying
makes
right
the
now
Nazi
is so
officers
egregious.
look like the most truthful people of all time. I mean, they had like some effort in trying to lie and
Look.
trying to rationalize lie, to try to justify it with some specious evidence or arguments of some type. I mean, give me
As a bystander with nothing to do with this. Zionism, if you want to continue to be like in control of that state, you got to put another dude in that seat, because this guy is doing you no service whatsoever
And I think
to
that's
your agenda.
I think that's the sentiments right now. Sadly, I think they're all in support of what is
Because
seems
it
to be
is the
large
agenda. Yeah, that's the
support
problem.
by the population in Israel, but they don't necessarily like the way Bibi has handled it. You know, I don't.
Well, he
And
is
the
handling
Likud
it
party
like
in
the charter,
particular.
the Likud charter. He's living up to that.
Yeah,
And the
I
rabbi
think he's going to
Messiah conversation with him, he's living up to that too. Because
Yeah.
that's the
He sees himself as a pseudo like Messiah at this point. He's going to be like a sort of self-sacrificial symbol, because at some point they will have to take him down, but maybe
He'll be the
he'll be
scapegoat.
accredited. He'll be a scapegoat, but it'll also be accredited historically as being the one that finally unified the entire state, or began the plans of the unifying the supposed state of Israel by ethnic cleansing and
there's lots of
and
good people in
genocide.
Israel who do
that
not
one could-
support the actions of their government. Just like there's plenty of good people in every country who do not support the actions of their governments when their governments are doing wrong things in our names with our tax dollars. So we can all relate on those common points right there. But what I can't relate to is probably Bibi's next sentence. Let's go ahead and play the next sentence, because it's bad. Hasbara.
they try to stop them at gunpoint. And when they can't stop them at gunpoint, they stop them with gunfire.
Is he
To
talking
identify
about his
with
settlers?
Hamas,
Oh, no, he's talking about Hamas. Again, we're going to show clips tonight that are not what he's telling you. They're the exact opposite. And this is the receipt, whereas he brings no receipts. He needs to work on that. Go ahead.
they stop them with gunfire. To identify with Hamas and to hurl these lies at Israel is to side with the barbarians. But I
Oh,
want
is
to
it?
tell you,
You asked me to
none of
believe
it
will
that?
stop us.
I say no. I don't believe that. I call bullshit.
At least be clever about it, but you must be speaking to individuals that are already in agreement with the Zionist ideology. So in that capacity, making emotional appeals and appeal to his own authority
Well, in the
Yeah.
interest of clarity, Tony, I want to make sure
at those.
you
upon
know
those, in other
that's
words.
Prime Minister Netanyahu's remarks at the conference of the presidents of the major American Jewish organizations in that room. And the flag on the left is not the flag of Bobo. It's the
Oh.
flag of the United States.
Huh.
And that's why he's speaking in English to not Christian Zionist audience. It's the other segment of Zionist supporters. Go ahead, let them keep rolling.
None of this will stop us. None of it. We're committed to total victory, and total victory means the release of the hostages. This is not something that is simple. It's very hard. I'm not sure that any government has faced quite such a predicament.
There was the Nuremberg trials.
Horrible dilemmas. The release of hostages is an imperative in the Jewish tradition, but it puts decision makers in very difficult situations. You know, when you're young and you're a soldier in a special unit, you don't quite understand that, because I've had my own personal experience.
Go ahead, pause it for a minute.
Accompanied me in my.
Before we get to his, Forrest Gump recall of his experiences, let me just ask the question. Prior to October 7th, did Israel hold any hostages from the other side? And what might that be looking like? Would it be called political prisoners? Would it be just called secret police arrests, disappearing of Palestinians, exiling or assassination of political enemies? What might you call that kidnapping or hostage situation where you don't even negotiate to give their people back in the first place? So I don't understand, like, all of a sudden on 10-7, you want a special set of rules that you don't apply to the other side? It's confusing. I'm just trying to understand what the guy's saying.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's very smart.
They're good with their special set of rules. So in that regards, yeah. Maybe they want to bring back halakha.
Very Jesuitical. All right.
Jewish law.
Let's go back. All right. So now we're going to return to the media block, having again had to deal with but they asked about the ICJ and he had the answer. Let's go back. We were probably almost up to Owen Jones at that point in the clip.
From the very start, it has been very clear what was going to happen to Gaza and its people. The reason for this is that the Israeli authorities just went ahead and said it from the very start. There was no subtlety, no need to read between the lines, no need to resort to tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. They said what they were going to do, and they did it.